Welcome to the vulnerability assessment of my server, my Turrentine. Let's get into it. This is the server checklist. It goes over applications for each of the servers. When looking at the firewall, both Windows and Linux were configured. Windows using Windows Firewall and Linux using IP tables. AppArmor was configured using AppArmor in the Linux server. HTTP was blocked from both servers because it is unnecessary. HTTPS was configured in Windows using IIS, and I attempted to configure it in Linux, but with no success using Apache. POP3 was unnecessary, so it was filtered out. POP3S was configured using Dovecot in the Linux server. SMTP was not configured in Windows and not configured in Linux because they were unnecessary. SMTPS was configured in Windows using IIS, but not in Linux with postfix because I was not able to. IMAP was unnecessary for Linux and therefore it was filtered out. IMAPS was configured for Linux using Dovecot. DNS was configured for both Windows and Linux using IIS and bind. The database was not configured for Linux. I attempted to configure it with Postgres, but with no success. And finally, SSH was configured with OpenSSH, but according to Greenbone scans, it has a login failure, but we will get more into that in this presentation. Here's the result of the Greenbone scans. Here it shows that HTTPS has a medium severity level on the Windows server, and TCP timestamps has a low vulnerability on the Linux server, and we will go more into detail later in this presentation. Let's take a look at the technical summary for Greenbone and ZenMap scans. Linux has an issue with TCP timestamps, causing it to have a low severity rating. This can be fixed by disabling TCP timestamps. Windows Server has an issue with HTTPS, causing it to have a medium severity rating. This can be fixed by configuring the server to not accept ciphers listed in the scan. ZenMap, according to ZenMap, the Windows server has 97 ports being filtered and 3 ports open. Microsoft DNS, Microsoft HTTPS, and SMTPS are the ports that are open. The Linux server has 91 closed ports, 5 open ports. SSH, DNS, HTTPS, IMAPS, and POP3S. Also, 4 ports being filtered, being SMTP, HTTP, POP3, and IMAP. The database for Linux was configured using Postgres, but did not show up in any scans, and I'm not sure why. Here we're going to be looking at the Greenbone scans of the firewalls for both servers. According to Greenbone, the security issue with Linux is that it has an issue with TCP timestamps, allowing for the system to compute the uptime. The best way to fix this is through mitigation. You can disable TCP timestamps by adding net IPv4 TCP underscore timestamps equals 0 in the following section, and this will be applied at runtime. When looking at the Windows server, Greenbone said there was no issue, and so no fixes are necessary. According to Linux, AppArmor is loaded and working, and according to Greenbone, scans show that there is no security threat, and so therefore no changes are necessary. Scans of the Linux server show that HTTP and HTTPS is loaded with Apache. ZenMap scans for both Linux and Windows show that HTTP is being filtered and HTTPS is open. Greenbone scans tell that in the Windows server there is an issue with HTTPS using IIS. All SSL and TLS cipher suites accepted by a service or attack vectors exit only on HTTPS services. The best way to fix this is through mitigation. You have to configure your server to not allow listed cipher suites. Also, you must update your OpenSSL, avoid 64-bit ciphers, and use VPNs with 128-bit encryption. POP3S in Nmap scans show it being open, and POP3 show as being closed. Greenbone states that there is no security issue with either, and therefore no security fixes are necessary. Scans in the Linux and Windows servers show that SMTP port 25 is being filtered. SMTPS is open on the Windows server but does not show up in the Linux ZenMap scan. The best way to fix this is to go into the server and look for the issue. Greenbone scans show that there are no security issues with SMTP or SMTPS. Scans in the Linux server that show that IMAP port 143 is filtered and IMAP's port 993 is open, and both were configured using Dovecot. Greenbone scans show that there are no security issues, and therefore no fixes are necessary. Scans show in Windows and Linux servers show that DNS is active. Scans show that IIS port 53 and bind have no security issues. Greenbone says there's no security issues and so no fixes are necessary. Scans show that there is no Postgres database in the Linux server. Port 5432 was opened and configured, but did not show up in the scan. The best fix is to go into the server and look for the issue to try to fix it. Scans show that SSH is open and configured, but according to Greenbone, it has a login failure, and according to others in my group, they have had this issue also, so maybe it is an issue with Greenbone or NetLab, but I am not sure. Let's talk about what the scans have shown. The Linux server has a low vulnerability rating, and the Windows server has a medium vulnerability rating. These scans reveal that the Linux server is more secure than the Windows, but both need to be hardened to prevent future security threats. The best course of action would be to change the Linux settings to disable timestamps. These changes will be applied at runtime. With the Windows server, the best way to fix the issue is through mitigation. The server needs to be configured to change the settings to not allow problematic cipher suites. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you have a great day, and here are my references.